Scientific method basically is observing nature and being able to replicate those observations and to establish causal relationships between one thing and another. It doesn't get any simpler than that for a definition. And that's really what we're doing with the thinking process. So that tells me that the thinking process has an integral relationship with the scientific method. Well, why use a thinking process? Our friend Socrates said that the unexamined life is not worth living. Well, if you extend that to our work situations, it's basically not worth doing the exercise at all, or the event or the activity, if you don't really examine it and figure out what's the right way to do it. The thinking process was originally designed to satisfy those last three bullet items there, the three questions: what to change to, and how to make the change happen. And I realized back around 15 years ago that it is the even more important question is, why change in the first place? That's a question that the thinking process will answer. Why change in the first place? But only with the addition of the goal tree, which didn't exist. And in the mainstream of TOC practice these days, there are a lot of people out there that still don't, in the TOC community, that still don't subscribe to it at all. The thinking process is really a set of 5 integrated logic trees that are intended to identify, first of all, what do we expect to happen? And if that's not happening, what do we change to make it happen? And if we decide we're going to change something, what should be the shape of the change? And once we've decided what the shape of the change is, how can we cause the change? How can we make it happen? So it looks like this. We start out with this goal tree here, which has a goal at the top and a set of critical success factors, and we'll define that in more detail when we get around to it this afternoon. And a set of supporting necessary conditions for each of those critical success factors. This identifies what it is we expect to happen, what we want to happen, what we are striving to make happen. And if it is not happening, it reflects in a real world evaluation of how well are we satisfying these critical success factors. If we are satisfying them fully, then we don't have any problem. If there is any one or more that we are not satisfying fully, it should be pretty obvious when we look at the definition of the statement of the critical success factor and a statement of actual reality. It should be obvious that there is a gap between the two. We take that gap and we describe it in a full sentence as the failure to achieve something. And that becomes the beginning of the current reality tree, what we call an undesirable effect. Now, what the goal tree adds to all of this, it was never in the original thinking process, and I think it's why it made it so difficult for people, is the goal tree forces you into a system-level view of what's happening. It forces you to analyze problems from the standpoint of how and why is the system hurting. Goldrat's original definition of an undesirable effect was anything in your system that's happening that you don't like. Well, guess what? I don't like in my system the fact that my in-basket is piled with paper that I can't seem to get through, and before I even get to the bottom of that pile, somebody adds some more. Is that an undesirable effect? Under the old rubric, it would have been. And as a result, there were so many things that people didn't like. You could look at a current reality tree and find 50, 60, 100 undesirable effects. If you're looking for clauses that are producing these things, my Lord, it's going to get to be a complicated tree because they go across so many different diverse areas. When you force yourself to consider the question, okay, you don't like that pile of paper in your end basket. Why does the system give a damn about it? And the answer starts with the word because. Well, because there is a really important piece of paper in there that needs to be processed now that we're not getting to because of all of that paper. What's the purpose of that piece of paper? It's to accomplish something in the system that is not being accomplished. And the failure to accomplish something is the true undesirable effect of the system. Without that focus, current reality trees became really ponderous and difficult to build. The very first one I built took me 3 days to build it. It had 170 entities on it and 40 undesirable effects. So here you have it. You have an ill-defined problem, a feeling that something's wrong with the system, and because of this wonderful gold tree you've got up front, you can identify what that is very quickly, and you end up going through this whole thing and come up with a fully implemented effective solution. It is the only problem-solving process that I have ever seen in my life that starts that way and finishes that way. You can start with an ill-defined problem and end up with a fully implemented effective solution. And the good part of it is it can happen very damn fast.